To me, formative assessment describes all those processes by which teachers and learners use information about student achievement to make adjustments to the student's learning that improve their achievement. So it's about using the information to adapt your teaching and adapt the work of the students to put the learning back on track, if you like, to make sure that the learning is proceeding in the right direction and to support that learning. So it's what happens when you don't just lecture students and rattle through the material until you get to the end and ask them if they've understood it okay. It's constantly making those adjustments. One of the ways I like to talk about it is just imagine what would happen if a pilot flew like many teachers assess. So I flew back from Seattle a few weeks ago. Just imagine what the pilot would have done. He would have flown east for 9 hours, and then after 9 hours he'd say it's time to land. So he'll put the plane down and he'll ask, is this London? And of course, even if it's not London, he says, well, everybody's got to get off because I've got to get onto the next journey. And that's exactly the way that we've assessed in the past. We teach students material, and at the end of that teaching, we find out if they've learned it or not. And if they haven't, we say, too bad, because we're on to the next unit. So what formative assessment does is encourages teachers to take constant readings about where students are, just in the same way that a pilot takes constant readings about their position. And if the learning isn't proceeding as you'd planned, then you make adjustments. That's the essence, to me, of formative assessment. So the reason I think that formative assessment is the right focus is because assessment is the bridge between teaching and learning. It's only through assessment of some kind that you know whether what has been taught has been learned. And that's why I think this focus on this assessment process, minute by minute and day by day, not at the end of a sequence of learning, minute and day by day, allows teachers to reflect on their practice and make small steps in improving that practice in a more powerful way than anything we've seen before. If we take the three central processes in assessment of making sure that you're clear about where the learner is going, you're clear about where they are, and you want to establish how to get there, and you think about the role of the teacher, the role of the other peers in the classroom, and the learner themselves, you end up with 5 what we call key strategies. The first is the teacher's role in making sure that you know where the learner is through questioning, classroom tasks, dialogue. So it's finding out where the learner is. Then giving feedback to the students, and not feedback that tells them that they're doing okay or they're not doing okay. It's feedback that moves the learner forward. Then you have the role of peers. First of all, helping each other understand the success criteria. So the teacher helps clarify what it is the lesson is about or the learning is about, and peers have a role in communicating that to each other as well. And then you have peers supporting each other, what we call activating students as teaching resources of one another, and you have student self-assessment, or activating students as owners of their own learning. And that brings in all the stuff about metacognition, all that stuff about managing your own emotional reaction to school and to work. And so we get this complex of ultimately 5 processes. There's the questioning, finding out where students are in their learning, the feedback that moves learners on, making sure that everybody concerned is clear about the success criteria, student peer assessment, and student self-assessment. Those, we think, are the 5 key processes or key strategies of assessment for learning. So much so that we would say that if you're doing assessment for learning, you're doing at least one of those. And if you're not doing one of those, then you're not doing assessment for learning.